Hi everyone, here where we try to extend healthy lives in an anonymous economy. Today we're going to talk about neurodegenerative disorder. It's a type of disease in which cells of the central nervous system stop working or die. Neurodegenerative disorders usually get worse over time and have no cure. They may be genetic or caused by a tumor, a stroke, or the body get exposed to certain viruses or toxins. Examples of neurodegenerative disorders include Alzheimer disease, Parkinson disease, Huntington disease, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS. One of the questions I recently got is, does NMN after injury promotes axon degeneration or does it protect against axon degeneration? So let's find out. Let's start with the central nervous system. The central nervous system is the part of the nervous system consisting primarily of the brain and the spinal cord. The three broad functions of the central nervous system are to take in sensory information, process information, and send out motor signals. These neurons are the body's information superhighway. An estimated 86 billion neurons can be found in the brain alone. Most neurons are divided in three basic sections: dendrites, cell body, and axon. And it's the axon of the neuron where often problems occur. One example is axon degeneration. Axon degeneration is a common pathological character of neurodegenerative diseases. It results in the loss of communication between neurons. This loss of communication between neurons is at the base of all the hundreds of different neurodegenerative disorders. Eventually, many different disorders are known. Most attention has been given only to a handful, including Alzheimer disease, Parkinson disease, Huntington disease, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. This loss of communication has been discovered for the very first time in 1850 by Augustus Waller in London, who noticed that frog nerves degenerate when they are injured. Waller's observation changed a lot, and the process he observed became known as Valerian Degeneration, which actually means that the neuron only degenerates when it thinks there's too much damage to function properly. It's important to understand that it's the cell itself who decides to degenerate or not. You can imagine that these findings raise even more questions than answers. So unknowingly he started a whole new field later called neuroscience. More than 100 years later they discovered something new. In 1989 by Hugh Berry and Michael Browner in Oxford, where they routinely were using Waller's method to make mouse nerve degenerate, which enables them to study axon degeneration. They did a few tests with mice instead of frogs, and they discovered that the injured nerves in the apparently normal mice did not degenerate. At first they were baffled and thought maybe it was a difference between a frog and a mice. But that could not be the case because other investigators had already reported normal Valerian degeneration in mice. Perhaps they hadn't cut the nerve properly, so they repeated the experiment again and again with the same outcome. But when they did the same experiment on another type of mice, they saw the expected degeneration occurring. So they had to conclude that there was something different about these mice. So they thought, could it be that axons also undergo a programmed death mechanism that somehow failed in these mice? This opened a whole new research topic where they had to find the mechanisms that control the programmed cell death in neurons. Because you can imagine that it had huge implications for finding a cure against Alzheimer disease, Parkinson disease, Huntington disease, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So the race had started to track down the protective gene. Within 30 years, the first drug appeared targeting these molecular pathways, producing therapies in a range of axonal disorders. This all proved that axon degeneration is controlled by certain mechanisms like specific genes, enzymes, and specific molecules. It's not hard to imagine that one day we will be able to cure all early diagnosed neurodegenerative diseases. And the question today of this video is, can NMN molecule play a role in this endeavor? First, NMN is a molecule which is a precursor of the molecule NAD+. And it happens to be that NAD+ is found in all cells and regulates diverse biological processes, including aging, circadian rhythms, and according to the latest research, also axon survival. Well, it's well known that NMN and NAD+ does something with the axon survival. But the big question here is, does NMN increase axon degeneration or does it protect against axon degeneration? The answer is, it depends on who you ask. If you ask research group led by Di Stefano, the answer will be NMN increases axon degeneration. And if you would ask research group led by Milbrand, they will say that NMN will protect from axon degeneration. But how is this possible? These people are well educated and only say something if there's hard data to prove it. Well, the study by Di Stefano demonstrated that a reduction of NMN protected against Valerian degeneration in vivo in both zebrafish and in mice. The method they used is by overexpressing an enzyme that converted NMN into an AMN. When they saw the levels of NMN go down and recorded less axon degeneration, they concluded that you could protect Valerian degeneration by lowering NMN. But the research group led by Milbrand showed that boosting NMN levels by overexpressing NAMPT actually protects against Valerian degeneration. The NAMPT is an enzyme that is able to convert nicotinamide to NMN. Even though this is very confusing, one thing is certain. Both conditions created also substantially increased NAD+ levels, which seem to suggest that high NAD level offset the pro-degenerative effect of NMN. Okay, time for a recap. Some researchers say it's good, some researchers say it's bad, but all the researchers are agreeing that increasing your NAD+ levels is good. But actually, I'm still confused, and I'm a biologist, and if I'm confused, what about you? Maybe the easiest answer would be more research is needed, and more research is really needed because preserving axon integrity and the function is a viable therapeutic strategy for many neurological disorders. Understanding the mechanisms of axon degeneration is of course crucial for this endeavor. Well, that's it. Thank you. Here where we try to extend healthy lives in an LLM economy.